Jack Morrison had never felt so small in his entire life. He stood in the center of the Grand Assembly Hall, surrounded by beings who had traveled between stars when humans were still living in caves. The hall was enormous, built to make visitors feel tiny, and it worked perfectly. 12 alien species sat in their designated sections, arranged in a circle around the speaking platform. Each section was designed for the specific biology of its occupants. Some breathed gases that would kill a human in seconds. Others existed in temperatures that would freeze blood solid. The Galactic Council had ruled this part of the universe for longer than human. Civilization had existed. Jack wore his best diplomatic uniform. Dark blue with gold trim, the flag of United Earth stitched over his heart. He had practiced his speech 100 times. He had memorized every fact, every achievement, every reason why humanity deserved a place among the stars. Now, standing before these ancient powers, the words felt hollow in his mouth. High Arbiter Zelthos of the Valorian Dominion looked down at him from the elevated central throne. The Valorians were humanoid in shape, but stood nearly 8 feet tall with pale silver skin and eyes that glowed faint blue. They had discovered faster-than-light travel 40,000 years ago. They considered themselves the natural rulers of all civilized space. "You may speak, representative of Earth," Zelthos said. His voice carried perfectly through the hall, translated instantly into every language present. There was no warmth in his tone. There was barely any interest. Jack cleared his throat and began. "Honored members of the Galactic Council, I come before you as the voice of 8 billion human beings. We request formal admission into the Galactic Compact with all the rights and responsibilities that membership brings." He spoke of human achievements. He told them about faster-than-light travel, developed independently without any alien assistance. He described the 12 star systems humanity had colonized, the cities built on distant worlds, the children born under alien suns who had never seen Earth. He explained the medical advances that had extended human lifespan to 300 years, the unified government that had brought peace after centuries of war, the scientific discoveries that pushed the boundaries of known physics. He spoke with passion and pride. He believed every word he said. Humanity had earned its place among the stars. When he finished, silence filled the hall. Jack waited, his heart beating fast, hoping for some sign of respect or acceptance. Then the laughter began. It started with the Kreth Collective, insectoid beings who communicated through clicks and whistles. Their laughter sounded like breaking glass. The Morvani joined in next, their deep rumbling voices echoing off the walls. Soon the entire hall was laughing, all 12 species united in their mockery of the small creature standing alone on the platform. High Arbiter Zelthos raised one long hand. The laughter slowly faded. He leaned forward, and for a moment, Jack thought he might offer some kindness. "You speak of achievements," Zelthos said, "but what you describe is nothing. Your fastest ships crawl through space like wounded animals. Your colonies are mud villages built on rocks we rejected as worthless. Your medicine has given you 300 years of life, while my people have lived for thousands. You have existed as a species for less time than some of our buildings have stood." The Kreth representative spoke next, its translator turning clicks into cold words. "Human biology is inefficient and fragile. You require constant temperature, specific atmosphere, regular feeding. You are barely more advanced than the animals you evolved from." The Morvani delegate, a massive creature covered in thick scales, added his voice. "We have observed your expansion. You breed quickly and spread carelessly. You are not civilized beings seeking to join our community. You are pests hoping to infest our garden." Jack felt his face grow hot. He wanted to argue, to defend his people, but what could he say? Every insult contained a grain of truth. Humanity was young. Humanity was fragile. Humanity was small. Zelthos raised his hand again. "The Council will now vote on the admission of Earth to the Galactic Compact." The vote took less than 30 seconds. 12 species, 12 rejections. Not a single voice spoke in humanity's favor. "Your application is denied," Zelthos announced. Furthermore, the Council has decided to implement new restrictions on human activity. You are forbidden from entering the 12 major trade routes. You may not purchase technology rated above class 3. You may not expand your territorial boundaries beyond their current limits. Violation of these restrictions will result in immediate military response. Jack stood frozen. This was worse than rejection. This was a cage built from words and laws, designed to keep humanity trapped forever. You may leave now, Zelthos said, dismissing him with a wave. Return to your small worlds and be content with what you have. The galaxy has no place for primitive species with grand ambitions. Jack turned and walked out of the hall. He did not run, though every instinct screamed at him to flee. He kept his back straight and his head high, even as he felt the eyes of a dozen species watching him go. He would not give them the satisfaction of seeing him break. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. Jack spent most of that time alone in his cabin, staring at the stars through the small window. He replayed the moment over and over in his mind. The laughter, the contempt, the casual cruelty of beings who saw humanity as nothing more than insects. Something changed inside him during that journey. The idealistic diplomat who had believed in peaceful cooperation and mutual respect began to fade. In his place, something harder and colder took shape. When his ship landed in Geneva, Admiral Katie Lawson was waiting for him on the platform. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, the kind of person who noticed everything and said little. She commanded Earth's entire military, every ship and soldier humanity possessed. "How bad?" she asked. "Worse than we feared," Jack replied. They drove together to the presidential bunker, deep beneath the Swiss mountains. President Daniel Foster met them in the Situation Room, surrounded by screens showing every corner of human space. He was a tall man with tired eyes, elected on promises of peace and prosperity that now seemed impossible to keep. Jack told them everything. The mockery, the rejection, the new restrictions. He held nothing back, not even the parts that shamed him. When he finished, the room was silent. President Foster stood by the window, looking at nothing. Finally he spoke. What do they fear most? These council species, with all their power and history, what keeps them awake at night? Jack considered the question carefully. He thought about the way Zelthos had looked at him, the barely hidden nervousness behind the arrogance. He remembered how quickly the laughter had started, as if they needed to diminish humanity before it could threaten them. "Oh, they fear that we might actually be as dangerous as they suspect," Jack said. "They fear that we might be different from every other young species they have encountered. They fear that if they give us a chance, we will take everything." Admiral Lawson smiled, and there was no warmth in it. "Then perhaps it is time we stopped asking for permission and started taking what we deserve." President Foster turned to face them. The tired man was gone, replaced by something harder. "Tell me what you need." And so it began. 6 months passed, and to the watching galaxy, nothing seemed to change. Human ships stayed within their assigned lanes. Human colonists did not expand beyond their borders. Human diplomats sent polite letters requesting reconsideration, and those letters were ignored or mocked. The Council believed they had successfully contained the young species. They believed humanity had accepted its place. They were wrong. On Europa, one of the frozen moons orbiting Jupiter, a facility existed that appeared on no official records. It was built beneath 3 miles of ice, powered by reactors that ran silent, staffed by people who had officially died or retired or simply disappeared. This was Project Blackout. Admiral Katie Lawson visited it every week. She walked through corridors carved from ice and stone, past laboratories where scientists worked around the clock, past workshops where engineers built machines that should not exist. Everyone she passed nodded with respect, but did not stop working. There was no time for ceremonies. There was barely time for sleep. Dr. Sam Bennett met her at the main research center. He was a young man with messy brown hair and circles under his eyes that spoke of too many sleepless nights. 3 years ago, he had attended a scientific conference on a Valorian station. He had presented his theories on quantum field manipulation, and the Valorian scientists had laughed at him. They had called his work the fumbling of an inferior mind, barely worth reading. Sam had not forgotten that day. He had used the memory as fuel, burning it to power his research. Now he stood before a holographic display showing the results of that research. "We cracked it," he told Admiral Lawson. "Valorian shields operate on a frequency rotation system. They cycle through 17 million different configurations every second. Everyone assumed that made them unbreakable because no weapon could adapt fast enough to find the gap." "You found another way," Lawson said. Sam nodded. "We do not try to find the gap. We create one. The cascade disruptor generates a feedback pulse that forces all 17 million configurations to activate simultaneously. The shield does not fail. It tears itself apart." He showed her the test results. Small-scale experiments at first, then larger ones. Captured Valorian shield generators, purchased through black market channels, destroyed in controlled conditions. The weapon worked every time. "How long until we can mount this on ships?" Lawson asked. "We already have. 27 Fury-class vessels are fully equipped and ready for deployment." Lawson allowed herself a small smile. The Fury-class was another secret, another impossibility made real. The ships were smaller than anything in galactic arsenals, designed for speed and precision rather than raw power. They could slip through sensor networks undetected, strike without warning, and vanish before any response could be organized. In another part of the facility, Lieutenant Commander Beth Callahan ran simulations on tactical displays. She was a compact woman with short red hair and the kind of focus that made people nervous. 2 years ago, she had participated in a joint exercise with Morvani forces, a gesture of goodwill that had turned into humiliation. The Morvani commanders had mocked her strategies, called them the desperate flailing of a species that did not understand real warfare. Beth had studied that exercise for months afterward. She had analyzed every Morvani tactic, every sensor sweep, every communication protocol. She had found patterns they did not know they had, weaknesses they did not know existed. Their entire sensor network runs on synchronized timing pulses, she explained to Lawson. Every 30 seconds, there is a gap of 0.4 milliseconds when the system recalibrates. It is far too short for any known ship to exploit. "But our ships are not known," Lawson said. "Exactly. A Fury class can drop out of hyperspace, complete a full tactical assessment, and begin combat operations in 0.3 milliseconds. We can be inside their formation before they know we have arrived." Across human space, the preparations continued. Factories on Mars that officially produced mining equipment were secretly manufacturing weapons. Shipyards in the outer colonies built vessels that were immediately classified and hidden. Training camps on remote moons turned ordinary soldiers into specialists capable of operations the galaxy had never seen. Captain Ryan Ellis led the intelligence effort. He was a quiet man with forgettable features, the kind of person who could walk through a crowd without anyone remembering his face. For 3 years, he had operated under civilian cover, traveling through council space as a merchant, a tourist, a refugee seeking work. He had mapped every security protocol, photographed every military installation, recorded every conversation that might prove useful. His team had discovered something important. The Council's power rested on 3 pillars that supported everything else. The Central Treaty Archive on the Council Station held every agreement that governed galactic civilization. The Valorian Prime Fleet, anchored at their homeworld, enforced those agreements through military might. The Galactic Commerce Hub processed every financial transaction between the stars, controlling the flow of wealth that made civilization possible. Control those 3 targets. And you controlled the galaxy. President Foster held weekly meetings in the Geneva bunker, reviewing progress and making decisions. The cabinet was divided. Secretary of State Laura Hendricks still believed in diplomacy. She argued that attacking the Council would turn humanity into the villains, proving everything the aliens believed about them. "They already see us as villains," Defense Secretary Chris Morton replied. "They have caged us and mocked us and told us we are nothing. Diplomacy requires someone willing to listen, and they have made it clear they never will." Laura shook her head. "If we do this, there is no going back. We will be at war with civilizations that have fought wars longer than we have existed. We are already at war," Jack Morrison said quietly. They declared it when they laughed at us. They simply did not bother to tell us. Debate continued for weeks. President Foster listened to every argument, considered every perspective. He understood what Laura feared. He knew the risks Chris was willing to accept. He felt the anger that burned inside Jack, because he felt it too. One night, alone in his office, he made his decision. He called Admiral Lawson on a secure channel. Operation Midnight Sun is authorized, he said. God forgive us for what we are about to do. Lawson did not believe in God, but she understood the sentiment. We will make them regret every insult, every restriction, every moment of contempt. When this is over, they will never laugh at humanity again. That is what I am afraid of, Foster replied. We are about to change everything, and I do not know if we will like what we become. We will become survivors, Lawson said. In a galaxy that wanted us to remain victims, that is the only thing that matters. The connection ended. Across human space, final preparations began. Ships moved into position. Crews received their orders. Weapons were armed and ready. The galaxy slept peacefully. Certain of its power and security, it would not sleep peacefully for much longer. The clock struck. 2,300 hours Galactic Standard Time, and the universe changed forever. Megan Cross had spent 3 years building her cover. She was the captain of the Dawn Trader, a battered cargo ship that hauled goods between minor stations. She complained about fuel prices, gossiped with dock workers, paid her bribes on time, and never caused trouble. Everyone who met her saw exactly what she wanted them to see. A harmless human trying to make a living in a galaxy that did not want her. Tonight, the mask came off. The Dawn Trader docked at the Galactic Commerce Hub, a massive station that processed every financial transaction in civilized space. Trillions of credits flowed through its systems every hour. Banks, corporations, governments, and criminal organizations all depended on its continued operation. It was the economic heart of the galaxy, and it was completely undefended. Why would anyone attack a place that served everyone equally? Megan walked down the boarding ramp, her crew of 40 following behind her. They wore worker uniforms and carried maintenance tools. The station guards barely glanced at them. Just another repair team, just another routine visit. They moved through the corridors with practiced efficiency. Each person knew their role, their target, their timing. They had rehearsed this operation hundreds of times in simulations. Now it was real, and there was no room for error. Megan reached the central control room in exactly 4 minutes and 32 seconds. The door was locked, but her tech specialist had already cracked the security codes. They entered without alarms, without resistance, without a single shot fired. The controllers inside looked up in confusion. They were financial experts, not soldiers. They did not understand what was happening until Megan smiled and spoke.
Good evening.
This station now belongs to Earth. Please remain calm and cooperate, and no one will be harmed. Within minutes, her team had taken complete control. They did not destroy anything or hurt anyone. Instead, they uploaded a program that gave Earth access to every financial record. Every transaction, every secret deal in the galaxy. The economic heart now beat for humanity. Across the stars, Admiral Katie Lawson watched her display screens with cold focus. 27 Fury-class ships floated in formation around her flagship, the Liberty Bell. They were deep in hyperspace, traveling toward the Valorian home system at speeds the Council believed impossible. All ships report ready, her tactical officer announced. Time to target? 30 seconds. Lawson took a deep breath. The Valorian Prime Fleet was the most powerful military force in the galaxy. 200 capital ships, each one capable of destroying entire planets. They had never been defeated. They had never even been seriously challenged. They had also never faced humans. Drop on my mark, Lawson ordered. Mark. 27 ships dropped out of hyperspace inside the Valorian defensive perimeter. They appeared so suddenly that the sensor operators thought it was a glitch. By the time they realized it was real, the Fury-class ships were already among them. Weaving between the massive capital ships like insects around sleeping giants, the Valorian commander ordered shields raised. But he did not hurry. His ships could absorb punishment that would destroy entire fleets. He almost felt sorry for the humans who had come so far to die. The first Cascade disruptor fired. The Valorian flagship, a vessel 3 miles long that had fought in 100 battles, shuddered as its shields tore themselves apart. The feedback pulse spread through every system, shutting down weapons, engines, and life support. Emergency lights flickered on as the ship went dark. Then the second ship was hit. And the third. And the fourth. Panic spread through the Valorian fleet. This was impossible. Their shields could not fail like this. Nothing could defeat them so easily, but the small human ships danced between them, firing with perfect precision, and one by one the Valorian giants fell silent, not destroyed, but disabled. Not dead, but helpless. Admiral Lawson watched 18 capital ships go dark before she ordered her fleet to withdraw. They could have destroyed every ship present, but that was not the plan. The plan was to demonstrate power, not to commit massacre. All ships, hyperspace jump, return to Earth. The Fury-class vessels vanished as quickly as they had appeared, leaving behind a crippled fleet and a shattered sense of invincibility. The third strike was the most dangerous. Jack Morrison led a team of 12 soldiers. Through the maintenance tunnels of the Council Station itself, Lieutenant Enid Nick Brennan walked beside him, a young man with steady hands and calm eyes, who had volunteered for a mission that seemed like suicide. They emerged in a service corridor near the Central Treaty Archive, where every agreement that governed galactic civilization was stored. Armed guards patrolled the hallways, but they were looking for threats from outside, not from within. Nick moved first, silent and fast. His team disabled the guards with precision weapons that caused unconsciousness, not death. They were not here to kill unless they had no choice. Jack reached the archive doors and placed his hand on the security panel. Captain Ellis had provided the access codes months ago, stolen from a corrupt official who never suspected the quiet merchant who bought him drinks. The doors opened, and Jack walked into history. The archive was a vast chamber filled with holographic displays, each one containing treaties, agreements, and laws that had shaped the galaxy for millennia. This was the foundation of council power, legal framework that gave them authority over 1,000 worlds. Jack activated the communication system and broadcast to every inhabited planet in the sector. His face appeared on screens across the galaxy, and his voice carried to billions of ears. "You called us primitive," he said. "You called us weak. You told us to know our place. Tonight we have seized your commerce, neutralized your greatest fleet, and we stand in the heart of your power. Every treaty you have made is now in our hands." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We have not destroyed them. We have not slaughtered your people or burned your worlds. We are not the monsters you believed us to be. But understand this, the old order is finished. Humanity will not be dismissed. Humanity will not be contained. Humanity will not beg for scraps from your table while you laugh at our ambition." Jack looked directly into the camera, his eyes hard and bright. "When the sun rises, you will negotiate with us as equals, or you will negotiate with us as conquerors. The choice is yours, but you will negotiate. That is no longer optional." He ended the broadcast and stood in silence. Nick and his team secured the room around him, watching for any response. Across the galaxy, the Council species reacted with shock, fear, and rage. The Valorians screamed for blood. The Kreth demanded immediate retaliation. The Morvani called for the complete extermination of humanity. But they could do nothing. Their fleet was crippled. Their economy was compromised. Their sacred archive was occupied by the species they had mocked. Just 6 months ago, Jack Morrison waited in the heart of their power, patient and unafraid. The night of breaking had only just begun. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began 6 hours after Jack Morrison's broadcast ended. The Grand Assembly Hall looked different now. The seats that had once radiated power and ancient authority now held frightened beings. who did not know what would happen next. High Arbiter Zelthos attended through hologram. His flagship still drifted without power near his homeworld. And the shame of appearing as a flickering image instead of in person burned in his silver eyes. He had ruled this council for 2 centuries. He had never imagined sitting helpless while a species he considered barely civilized dictated terms. "This is an act of war," he declared, his translated voice echoing through the hall. "The human attack on Valorian vessels and the occupation of council property demands immediate and overwhelming response." The Kreth representative clicked in agreement. "We must assemble a combined fleet and strike Earth itself. They have too few ships to defend their homeworld. And how will we pay for this fleet?" The question came from the Silthine delegate, a thin being with large dark eyes who had remained silent until now. "The Commerce Hub controls our financial systems. Every credit we try to move, every ship we try to fuel, requires transactions that now flow through human hands." The Morvani representative slammed a massive fist against his console. "Then we bypass the hub. We use direct transfers, personal accounts, anything that avoids their control." "That would take months to organize," the Silthine replied calmly. "Months during which our economies remain frozen. Many of our worlds depend on daily trade to survive. How many will starve while we arrange alternative payment methods?" Zelthos waved dismissively. "These are minor concerns. The humans have committed acts of aggression against the entire council. We cannot allow this to stand. With what forces?" Jack Morrison's voice cut through the debate as he walked into the Grand Assembly Hall, escorted by Nick Brennan and his team. The council guards moved to stop them, but hesitated. No one had given orders about what to do if the humans simply walked in. Jack continued toward the speaking platform where he had stood 6 months ago, receiving mockery instead of respect. He climbed the steps and faced the assembled delegates with the same calm expression. "Your prime fleet is disabled," he said. 18 capital ships are currently being towed back to Valorian space by the vessels we graciously left functional. Your Commerce Hub processes transactions only with our permission. Your treaty archive remains under our control. You may threaten war, but you are not in a position to fight one." Zelthus's hologram flickered with rage. "You dare come here and speak to us as if you have one? You are insects who got lucky. When our fleet is repaired, we will burn your worlds to ash." "Your fleet will take 8 months to repair," Jack replied. "We know this because we designed the Cascade Disruptor specifically to cause maximum damage with minimum recovery time. We studied your ships, your shields, your engineering capabilities. We know exactly how long you need, and we made sure it would be long enough." He turned to address the other delegates. "Humanity did not come here for conquest. We came for recognition. 6 months ago, I stood on this platform and asked for a place among the stars. You laughed at me. You called us primitive, fragile, inferior. You placed restrictions on us designed to keep us weak forever." Jack paused, letting his words settle into the silence. "We have proven that we are none of those things. Now we offer you a choice. Negotiate with us fairly, grant us the membership and respect we deserve, and we will return control of the Commerce Hub and the Treaty Archive. We will share the technology that disabled your fleet, so that no species can ever dominate others through military supremacy alone. We will help build a new order based on genuine equality, not ancient hierarchies. And if we refuse?" the Kreth representative asked. "Then we keep what we have taken," Jack said simply. "Your economies collapse within weeks. Your military alliances fracture as species fight over remaining resources. Your treaty archive remains in our hands, and every secret deal, every broken agreement, every act of corruption becomes public knowledge." He looked directly at Zelthos. "We have evidence of things the Council has hidden for millennia. Genocide covered up as natural disasters. Trade agreements that enrich the powerful while impoverishing the weak. Wars started to maintain Valorian dominance. Would you like the galaxy to know the true history of its rulers?" The chamber fell absolutely silent. The Silthan delegate was the first to speak. "Perhaps we should discuss terms," they said carefully. "The humans have demonstrated capabilities that warrant reconsideration of their status." Zelthos turned on them instantly. "You would negotiate with these criminals?" You would reward their aggression? I would avoid unnecessary destruction, the Silthine replied. My people have no quarrel with humanity. We have no desire to see our economy collapse or our secrets exposed. If reasonable terms can be reached, we should reach them. One by one, other delegates began to speak. The Morvani, despite their earlier bluster, admitted that war with humanity seemed unwise given current circumstances. The Kreth suggested that perhaps the original restrictions had been too harsh. Smaller species who had never dared challenge Valorian leadership suddenly found their voices. President Daniel Foster addressed the council directly from Earth. His image appearing on the main display screen, he spoke calmly and without threats, laying out humanity's terms in clear language: full membership in a reformed galactic compact, equal representation on the council, immediate lifting of all restrictions on human expansion and trade. In exchange, humanity would return control of the Commerce Hub and the Treaty Archive. They would repair the Valorian ships they had disabled. They would share technology freely with all member species. We do not seek empire, Foster concluded. We seek partnership, but we will accept nothing less than equality. The time of humanity being treated as lesser beings is over. Zelthos made one final attempt to rally opposition. He invoked ancient traditions, sacred bonds, the danger of allowing aggressive young species to rewrite the rules that had maintained peace for millennia. But the other delegates were already calculating their new positions. The Morvani saw opportunity in a weakened Valorian dominion. Smaller species saw protection under a new order. Even some Valorian factions, tired of Zelthos and his arrogance, began sending private messages to human diplomats. The vote was held at dawn. Just as Jack had promised, 9 species voted to accept humanity into the Galactic Compact with full membership status. The Silthine voted yes immediately. The Morvani followed after brief hesitation. One by one, the others joined. 3 species voted no. The Valorians, of course. The Kreth, loyal to their old alliance, and 1 minor species whose delegates seemed more afraid of Zelthos than of humans. But 9-3 was enough. The motion passed. Jack Morrison stood on the speaking platform as the results were announced. 6 months ago, he had left this hall humiliated and angry. Now he watched as humanity's flag was added to the display of council members, taking its place among species that had existed since before human civilization began. He did not smile. He did not celebrate. He simply nodded once and began walking toward the door. Nick Brennan fell into step beside him. "We did it," the young soldier said quietly. "We actually did it. We did the easy part," Jack replied. "Now comes the hard work of proving we deserve what we have taken." Behind them, the council continued its deliberations, already beginning to reshape itself around the new reality. The old order was broken. Something new was being born. 3 years had passed since the night of breaking, and the galaxy had become something new. Jack Morrison stood on the observation deck of the council station, watching ships from a dozen species pass by the massive windows. Human freighters traveled alongside Valorian cruisers. Silthine traders docked next to Morvani cargo haulers. The traffic that flowed through this region of space had tripled since humanity joined the compact. As new trade routes opened and old restrictions faded into history, he wore different clothes now. The diplomatic uniform had been replaced by simpler attire, though he still carried the United Earth pin over his heart. His hair had gone gray at the temples, and lines had formed around his eyes. The work of the past 3 years had aged him, but he did not regret a single day. The reformed Galactic Compact operated on principles that would have seemed impossible a decade ago. Every species had equal representation. Every vote carried equal weight. The old hierarchy that had placed Valorians at the top and everyone else below them had been dismantled piece by piece, replaced by genuine cooperation. Human technology had spread across the sector in ways no one expected. The Cascade Disruptor, once a weapon designed to humble the powerful, had been adapted into a defensive system that made large-scale warfare nearly impossible. Any species that attacked another would find their fleet disabled within hours. Peace was no longer maintained through fear of Valorian punishment. It was maintained because aggression had become futile. But it was human medicine that changed the galaxy most. The treatments that had extended human lifespan to 300 years were shared freely with every member species. Diseases that had plagued civilizations for millennia were cured within months. Populations that had been declining for generations began to grow again. Dr. Sam Bennett received the Galactic Science Prize for his contributions, presented at a ceremony attended by representatives from all 12 council species. The Valorian scientist who had once called him intellectually inferior was the one who placed the medal around his neck. "I was wrong about you," the Valorian said quietly, so only Sam could hear. "I was wrong about all of you." Sam nodded politely but said nothing. He had stopped caring about Valorian opinions long ago. His work spoke for itself. That was enough. Admiral Katie Lawson had retired from active service, but found herself busier than ever. She commanded the new Galactic Defense Academy, where officers from every species trained together. Her first graduating class included young Valorians who studied human tactics with genuine respect, Kreth strategists who learned to work with species they had once dismissed, and Morvani soldiers who discovered that strength meant more than size. She walked through the academy grounds one morning, watching cadets practice formation drills on the parade field. A young Valorian officer approached her and saluted in the human style. "Admiral, may I speak with you?" Lawson nodded. "What is it, cadet?" "I wanted to thank you. My grandfather served on the flagship you disabled during the night of breaking. He lost everything that day: his pride, his position, his belief in our superiority." The cadet paused. "But he told me recently that it was the best thing that ever happened to him. He learned that power means nothing if it is not used wisely. He learned that dismissing others because they are different is a weakness, not a strength." Lawson considered the young Valorian carefully. "And what did you learn?" "That humanity earned its place among the stars, not by being the strongest or the oldest, but by refusing to accept limits." "That is what I want to learn from you, Admiral. How to be more than what others expect." Lawson smiled, and for once there was warmth in it. "Then you have come to the right place." Captain Ryan Ellis ran the reformed Galactic Intelligence Service from a modest office on the Council Station. The organization no longer operated through espionage and manipulation. Instead, it focused on transparency and cooperation, sharing information between species to prevent conflicts before they began. He had spent the morning reviewing reports from across the sector. Border disputes were down by 70%. Criminal organizations that had once operated with impunity were being dismantled through coordinated action. Former enemies were becoming trading partners. His assistant entered with a message. "Sir, you have a visitor?" "She says you know her." Megan Cross walked into the office with the same confident stride she had used when seizing the Commerce Hub 3 years ago. She was dressed in expensive clothes now, the uniform of a successful merchant rather than a secret operative. "Hey, Ryan, you look tired." "And you look rich," he replied. Megan laughed. "Someone had to take advantage of the new trade routes. My shipping company handles a quarter of all commerce in the sector now. Turns out being the woman who held the galaxy's economy hostage makes for excellent business credentials." "Is that why you are here? To brag about your success?" "I am here to offer you a job. Private security consulting for my expanding operations. The pay is excellent, the hours are flexible, and you would not have to read reports all day." Ellis shook his head. "I appreciate the offer, but I am needed here. The work we do matters." Megan nodded, unsurprised. "I knew you would say that. But the offer stands if you ever change your mind." She left as quickly as she had arrived, already moving on to her next meeting, her next deal, her next conquest. Some things never changed. High Arbiter Zelthos lived in quiet exile on a remote world at the edge of Valorian space. He had been stripped of his title and his authority, abandoned by the species he had led for 2 centuries. His days were spent writing memoirs that no publisher would touch. Trying to explain how everything had gone wrong, he often thought about the young human who had stood before him asking for admission to the council. He remembered the laughter, the contempt, The certainty that this primitive species could never threaten the established order. He had been so confident in his superiority, so certain that the universe would always work the way it had always worked, so blind to the possibility that he might be wrong. On Earth, President Amy Martinez gave the State of the Union address to a watching nation and a watching galaxy. She spoke of humanity's journey from a single blue world to a power that shaped interstellar destiny. She reminded her audience that strength meant nothing without wisdom, and that the greatest achievement of the night of breaking was not winning, but building something better afterward. "We proved that we could take what we wanted," she said. "But we also proved that we could be trusted with what we took. That is the difference between conquerors and partners. That is what makes us worthy of the stars." Jack Morrison watched the speech from the observation deck of the council station. A young Valorian diplomat approached him, a member of the new generation that had grown up after the night of breaking. "Ambassador Morrison," the young Valorian said, "may I ask you something?" Jack nodded. "How did humanity accomplish the impossible? You were younger, smaller, weaker than any of us. You should have accepted your place and been grateful for whatever we allowed. Instead, you changed everything. How?" Jack looked out at the stars, thinking about the question. He remembered standing in this station 6 months before the night of breaking, listening to laughter and mockery. He remembered the anger that had burned inside him, the determination that had grown in the dark. "You assumed we would accept the limits you placed on us," he said finally. "You assumed we would be grateful for whatever scraps you offered. You assumed that because we were young, we were weak. You assumed wrong." He turned to face the young Valorian directly. "Humanity does not accept limits. Humanity breaks them. That is what you failed to understand, and that is why we stand here today as equals instead of subjects." The young Valorian nodded slowly, absorbing the lesson. "We will not make that mistake again." "No," Jack agreed, looking back at the endless stars. "You will not." The observation deck fell silent. Ships continued to pass the windows, carrying the commerce and hope of a galaxy transformed. Somewhere out there, new species were being born. New civilizations were rising. New challenges were waiting to be faced. Humanity would meet them all. That was what they did. That was what they would always do. Break limits. Defy expectations. Reach for the impossible. And when the galaxy laughed and said they could not succeed, they would prove the galaxy wrong. Again and again and again.